Today we're going to look at fitting a Neco integrated headset to a carbon road frame. So the first thing we do is fit the bottom ball race. This is the larger of the ball races. The beveled edge, this goes into the bottom of the frame with the beveled edge upwards. It should be a fairly tight fit. And you then have a metal surface goes onto the top of the fork. That's what the ball race runs against. Don't sand too much off to get this to fit. The smaller ball race beveled edge down goes into the top of the frame, and here I've put a split washer on top which came with the pack. Here's the steerer and the handlebar tube, and we've put on the cover and some stacking with some other washers. Then we've cut the steerer just below the height of the handlebar stem, so it's about a 3mm gap below. That allows us to clamp down the locking nut. Here's the bung, and basically it's a wedge. It's a two-piece part. Be very careful about this. There's no way it will clamp down just clamping on the top cap. You have to take it apart, and you'll see that once I take this nut off, that the top cap comes off, and there we have the bung, and that drops down inside the handlebar stem and into the steerer tube. So it doesn't clamp at all. All the sole purpose of this bung is it replaces the star washer, which obviously you can't use on a carbon steerer, and you basically tighten up this bolt. That pulls the bung upwards against a bevel top, which expands it out, and it locks into the steerer tube, and that gives us something to clamp the handlebar stem down onto. It needs to be fairly tight, otherwise it won't ever tighten up. So there, we've just adjusted it so it goes in tightly, and then we tighten it up. Again, you don't need to be a gorilla to do this. It should be tight without being absolutely done up like a garage mechanic. So generally an Allen key gives you a reasonable amount of torque. You'll find that the handlebar stem will still move. This isn't the point of this clamp together. You then I've put on a top lock nut. Ideally the bung should be within the handlebar stem, and this is what actually clamps the handlebar stem down, clamps the whole unit together, and you just have to tighten up this nut until there's no longer any movement, any play in the fork. So the bearings that we put into the frame are designed, they've got little bevels on them, and they're designed to clamp down. If you over tighten this, you won't be able to move the fork. So there, we've got no play left in there. We check that it's fairly free. And if we look down here, you can see there's still a gap between the fork and the frame. It should be a millimetre gap. It's worth putting a bit of grease onto these bearing races, especially the bottom one, because it gets quite a lot of grit and dirt, and you need to check them, maintain them, at least once a year. There we go. It's nice and free, but with no play. So the next thing to do is to tighten the handlebar stem onto the steerer. We do that, just give half a turn, once they're hand tight, half a turn at a time on each of the Allen nuts.